So as I said, so each and every class will be recorded firstly, right? So what I want is, if you have any questions and anything, let's start up. So for today, what we'll do, we'll just see something like what exactly is Eclipse, and we'll see a programming format. Now, so here normally Java is something, right? You don't. You can write a Java program in a simple notepad or any editor, text editor you have, right? You can save it in your hard disk, and you can actually run the same using a command prompt itself directly, without using any support of any tool. Now, why do we need anything like Eclipse or any other editors? So we call editor, or we normally call this IDE, which is an integrated development environment. Now, editors or IDEs are something which gives us support to write program in a faster way, or to execute program in a faster way without using command prompts or DOS prompt actually. That is the main usage of editors. Now, there are so many editors in market. So there are Eclipse is one editor which we have, and you have something called NetBeans, right? We have JDeveloper, right? You have Notepad++, the one which I'm working on now, which is this is a simple notepad. But here, this Notepad++, we can also code, right? You can see here in your language, right? You can select your Java and Java program. But yes, we don't. I won't be using this. I am just using this to actually show you some text. That's it. Right? So among all these editors are freewares actually. The complete Java itself is an open source. You can just download your JDK, right? Set up in your machine, right? And download the Eclipse, open it up, and directly start using the Eclipse for developing the programs. Everything is open source. There is nothing here which is licensed, right? So I'll give you Eclipse. If you don't have Eclipse, and if you don't have JDK setup, right, let's take up this in tomorrow's class, because let us see, as the first class, we just see few things on Eclipse, right? Now that is your Eclipse, and all the other IDEs, right, will be same as Eclipse, but they will have their own way of giving support to programming, right? So why we are actually taking up Eclipse is something. This is a recommended editor for Java development, and this is the recommended editor for other programming, like Android programming, because other programming which normally depends on other technologies, which normally depends on Java. I'm talking about, right? So I'm not talking about that, .NET. If you want to go for .NET development, you can't use it. Basically, yes, it is true. But whatever technologies are dependent on Java, you can actually use Eclipse for them. And Eclipse is compatible for each and every technology you want to code on Java. So normally, who are the different end users who can actually use Eclipse for developers are, like, normally the Java developers, which we are in now, and even Android developers, right? And you can have testers, so testing people, they can actually use this for automation purpose, and for this they can use the actually Java. Actually, yes, you can develop direct HTML also, right? You can develop your PHP, right? And you can develop a plain desktop based applications, desktop apps, right? And normally PHP mainly, it supports only CSS part, which is styling part, right? And you can develop something called JavaScript apps, right? So in this way, it gives support for many things actually. But you can use Eclipse for many developments actually. So that is the reason why we are going to learn Java mainly based on Eclipse editor, right? So this is the main purpose of Eclipse that we are going to use in our classes. Right? Now, let me show you the Eclipse part. So this is Eclipse which we have, which we normally call it as an editor. So I'll show you the link from where you have to download the Eclipse around. So I am using the Eclipse version called Juno. So if you can see here, so this is the version which I am actually using, and normally in market you have a Eclipse version of Kepler, right? So yeah, so that is your Eclipse you have. Okay? So this is all about the Eclipse. Now, what is something called JDK? Right? So normally we encounter whenever we actually start up to think or I want to learn Java and all, right? So we normally have to learn something on JVM, JRE and JDK. So these three things are few things which are very important to understand first, right? So basically they will actually give us support to develop things, right? Now let us see what exactly are JVM, JRE and JDK. Now, so let me show you that in PPT here. Okay, so here let me take this. Okay, perfect. Now let's talk about JVM. JVM is like a machine or engine which provides a direct API interaction with our code. Now, so when we actually start up our code, right? So see, whenever we say technology, right? Let's take an example of Java, .NET, or anything, right? So what does it mean is it will actually support us to write some programs, right? Which means it supports us to write some program. In sense, they already have something like the compilers or the inbuilt APIs, right? Like let's say there is a package where there are so many APIs you want. There are so many APIs, right? Now these APIs are something which contains some predefined or developed Java, supporting apps, right? Now JVM component is something which actually, let us say you are writing a class or you are writing a simple code, right? Simple Java code. Now JVM will give you an exposure of these apps. So all the APIs we can use them using JVM. So that is something which JVM is used for. Now JVM is like an engine which actually drives APIs to use in our code, right? Now this will be continuously interacting with the APIs. That is something which is JVM. So that is why JVM is basically called as a Java virtual machine. This works only to give exposure of all the APIs of Java into the code, right? And combination of these two, all the jars and the JVM is called as your JRE, which is called as a Java runtime environment. Java runtime environment contains the set of libraries which we call it as the APIs. API is nothing but an application program interface. Normally we call it as a the DLLs or supportive files which you want to tag, right? Now these two in combination will actually give us a support to the code which we are writing. So that is a package called JRE. Now this is a simple package which is called as a Java runtime, and JRE is basically used if you want to run some Java applications. This JRE is enough. If you want to run, in the sense, when I say if you want to run, which means you are an end user, you are not a developer, you are an end user and you want to run some Java applications which someone have developed. So for that only JRE is enough. But if you want to develop something, then you also need something called some development libraries. We normally call it as development libs, including JRE. Packaging JRE and the development lips. So this complete package is called as a JDK. Now JDK is nothing but a Java development kit. So normally it also used to call it as a SDK, or normally called as a SDK with Java. So Java SDK in the sense Java software development kit. But normally it got renamed to this something called Java development kit, right, which contains the complete package of JRE and some development to libs. So development libs or tools, right? And so this complete package is called as a JDK, which can be used for development. Now that is the reason why we basically say initially before starting up coding, you should have your JDK installed in your machine. That is called as a setting up of an environment called JDK, which is Java Development Kit in your environment. Now, the question is, how can we set up the JDK in your machine? Now, this JDK package is a direct installable provided by Java people, Oracle basically, because Java is something which belongs to Oracle Corporation, alright? Oracle Corp, because we normally have Java belonging APIs, everything in Oracle site itself. So you can actually go into the site of Oracle Corporation and you can download it, right? There are two important links which we have. So in this link, which I have just pinged up, right, you have to select this first window, which is Java SE Development Kit 7U40. Now 7 is nothing but a Java, the latest version going on, which is 1.7, and 40 is a build. The latest build which is moving in market called is 40, right? And here you have a Mac. If you are using Mac, you can go ahead for this. In Mac, anyways, we know that we have only 64-bit Macs running up, right? So we have one option. In Windows, you can select any of these two. If your machine is 32-bit, you can go ahead with this, and if your machine is 64-bit, you can go ahead with selecting your Windows 64-bit machine, right? And click on this, it will download your JDK. It will give you a direct executable file, right? And directly install this in your machine. So this will actually give you the setup of your environment, right? Now this is something which is pertaining to your JDK installation, right? And regarding Eclipse, now this is a link for Eclipse. So let me just give you this. Now rather this one. So here you can see that we are going to use the latest one, Kepler. Anyways, even if you are using Juno or Kepler, it doesn't matter actually, but the latest one running is Kepler, right? And we are going to download this one because as we are going to develop some Java, we are going to see something on Java development and also the web part of Java, right? So that is why we are going to download the complete version of Java, or complete version of Eclipse, normally Eclipse ID, right? So here let me just give you this link. Now based on your bit format, right, if your machine is 64-bit, you can just click on this, or 32-bit, you can click on this, and this will actually download the Eclipse, right? So that is something where from there you will get a JDK and an Eclipse you want, right? So if these two things are ready, the first thing you have to download is Eclipse. Now Eclipse is not installable here, right? Again, now when I say Eclipse is not installable, which means it will give you a direct setup, right? It will give you a direct setup of Eclipse. You just have to unzip it and you can use it directly. Fine, you can directly download and start developing things, right? And normally if you feel that you just want to start up, right, you can directly go for ID for Java developer, but this is something which is used for something else. Now you can see in Eclipse, right, there are so many Eclipse versions you have, right? For based on same version, which is Kepler, right, there are so many different based on the perspectives, right? You have so many. You can see that this is for standard. Now standard is something, yes, you can actually develop all the things here. But normally if you want more support for web, right, as we are going to check out even the frameworks, right, frameworks like strut strings and all, right, so we need something the complete support of the Java. So that's why this is a complete setup of Java we have, You can see that this is the biggest one, which is 247 MB we have in here, right? Now in the same way, you can see here there are so many things. Even we have Eclipse for C and C++ developers too. You can develop the complete C and C++ application directly using IDE. The pattern will be same. I mean the usage now, how to compile and everything will be same, right? And you can actually start coding even in C++, right? And you can see there is one more thing called for testers. You can see that there is a Eclipse for separate testers, right? It will actually give you the support for testing, and if you want to test things, normally this version of Eclipse basically is used by testers. Now you can actually have Selenium integration here. You can have Silk integration here. Now Selenium, Silk, all these things are something which are testing tools for automation, right? You can use Eclipse because when I say testing tool for automation, that even for that you will be using Java code to write some automation code actually. So that is why I'm just showing. Yeah, all these things can be done by one setup which you are going to download. So this is the one which you can download, and you can actually do everything you want in here, right? So that is something which you have your Eclipse download. Fine. Now that will give you two things, which is Eclipse and JDK, right? Now let's go ahead and see the next part, which is a simple programming part. Now how can we actually run a simple program on Java, right? First let's get the feel of how to create something on Java, right? Now basically in your IDE, right, so once you want to start anything, right, so we have to create everything on something called project. Now we can't directly create a simple file and write a code. Now here we have to follow some things on Eclipse in order to develop. Now anyways, this is not a very big complex thing which you have to follow, a simple thing. First thing you have to create is something called project. Right? This project is nothing but a collection of all the different raw files where you are going to write a Java code. So that is called as your project. Right? So in this project we are going to create different classes, right, or different pages or anything. So these are something which I was talking about, raw things. A simple project will contain everything, right? And in the same way you can create multiple projects, right? Let's say you're going to work on 3 different projects, right? Which means that you have the 3 different project setups in Eclipse, and you can work on them exclusively. Fine. Now here let's go and see first thing how to actually create a Java project. Now as we are learning the core Java, right? So we have to create a project of type. There are so many project types we have. Now if you go to file and new, right, you can see few of options which we have, right? We have something called a simple dynamic project and all, right? Don't worry about that. So you will be learning most of these things when we actually move on. Now if you don't find anything which is here, right, this is common across the complete pattern of Eclipse, guys. If you are using Eclipse or anything, right, you can actually go ahead with this thing. If you don't find anything on your menu, just click on other. Other will actually give you a complete wizard of all the things which you have in your Eclipse, right? So in this, first thing what we have to check out here is something called project. Now you can see we have a Java project here. Now this Java project is something sorry, Java is something which is, I am talking about like a project which you have to create in order to create your classes, right? And we are for complete core Java, right? Initially for complete core Java, we are going to use this type of a project called as a Java project. Let me click on next here. Now you can see a wizard window, which is, this will ask us like what are the different parameters you want to work on. Now first thing is a project name. So let me just call it as my first. Let me give it as a name of my first, which is, I'm just giving the name as my first project. Now the remaining things just leave as it is, because Eclipse will actually pick everything from your machine itself. You can see it says what JRE you want to use right, to run the program on this Eclipse. So by default, if you can install your GRE, right, it will take the best one. So don't worry about that. Or if you want to go ahead and select something else, you can select. But as it is picking the latest one, just leave it as it is. Right? And the default location, this is a workspace which you have to give, right? And the workspace will be the workspace whenever you open Eclipse. So whenever you download your Eclipse and start up your Eclipse, right? You have to create a folder path in your hard drive where you want to mention some path where you can create all the projects. So that is called as a workspace. The same workspace path will be taken over here, right? And click on next. Now this is something which will give you a build path. Now what is a build path here? Now, so basically whenever we write a program, right, we normally write a program in some file called .java file, right? So .java is nothing but a raw file which is a raw Java file or a raw class file which you write in Java, which is understandable by the end user, right? Now, so end user in the sense you can write code on English, right? You can use English terms to write some code. Now, if you are writing something on English, which means you can understand, but the machine cannot understand, right? So for that reason, in Java, we have to do something called compile our code. Now, compiling is nothing but converting the .java file into some file called .class file. Now, this .class file is also called as a bytecode. Now, this class file is something which is understandable by our JRE or understandable by the machine as such. Now, this compiler is something which actually converts your Java into .class. Now this process is called as a build process. Building your class is nothing but converting your .java into .class file. Now that is something, now we will be writing all the code in .java extension. Now when I say .java, it is an extension. You can write something called, let's say my first class.java is your file. Now when you compile it, right, don't worry about how to compile because Eclipse will actually will help us in compiling over. Now normally if you want to compile using your command prompt, you will be using something called Java C and all. Don't worry about that. Now when you compile this file, now it will actually give us something called same name my first but with some extension called .class. This is something which is a bytecode which is our end class file used to run a program on any machine. Now this complete process is called as a build process, and for this process we have to give some path where do you want to copy the class file after compilation. That path is called as your build path, right? Normally we give build path as a my first is my project name and the bin is called as a one of the folder inside this project. Now let's keep this as it is and finish. Now when you finish, right, normally now you can see here on the top you have something called here at the right top where I'm actually showing up the mouse pointer. Now this is called as a perspective. Perspective is nothing but now your Eclipse. So we can, as I said, we can use our Eclipse for many things, right? Now as we are going to use now for a simple Java project. When I say simple Java project, which means I'm not talking about the web application here, right? I'm talking about something where we are directly going to write some classes, right? And a simple Java where we are not going to do anything on web now, right? So as of now you can see it says Java EE. So Java EE is one of the perspective. When I select this, the complete IDE will turn to a supportive of something called web application development. But here you can see that it says this kind of project is associated with Java perspective. Do you want to open this? Just click on remember and click on yes. When you say yes, right, you can see one more perspective will get added up and the complete IDE will get converted to this. If you want to get back, you can click on this again. You can see when I click on this, you can see some of the tabs here will be changed and some of the options will be changed. When you click on Java, again you can see some of the tabs here, right? So that is a very easy way which you have in Eclipse to change your perspective. But yes, so for our core Java, we will be using a complete perspective called Java perspective. Now this is your project being created. Now this part of window, which is Package Explorer, is a window where you can see all the classes, the raw tree structure of a group, right? And this middle portion, which you can see, the big portion, right, is something where whenever you create a class or if you want to write a code, right, so this is a portion where we are going to write a code now. And pertaining to this code, it will actually show us which line we are in, everything. So this is a window. Anyways, if you want to minimize, you can just click on this, it will be minimized. So this big portion is to write a code. And this portion, which you can see, is something which will actually show us different things like if you have any error on a program or what is the output. Now this is something which will give us an output or show us the current statistics of our program. So these are the three different blocks which we have in our Eclipse. Fine. Now how can I write a simple program? Now each and every program you can write in something called a class. What is a class and what is an different things we have, right? We'll be actually learning these things in our upcoming classes. Don't worry about that, right? Now every part of code, if you want to write any logic, if you want to start any programming, right, we have to start programming using a class. A class is like a container where we are going to write a logic. Now let me create a class. Now you can see in this project, right, you have some folders. You have something called source. Now this source folder is nothing but a folder where we are going to create all our classes, which means we are going to create all our classes writing out different logics we want in our source folder. So that is something which is a source. Now your system library is nothing but, you can see here all the supportive jars. Now you can also call it as libraries, right? All the supportive libraries will be automatically imported to your this project. Now you can see that all these libraries are nothing but, you can see whenever you install your JDK, right, normally JRE or JDK, it will actually get registered with your C program files in Java, right? You can see whenever we create a project in our Eclipse, it will directly get the required library files, right, exposed to our project. Now that is the reason why you don't have to worry about compilation or anything. Eclipse will take care of everything you have. Right? Now let's go ahead and create a simple class. So in order to create a simple class, again just right click on this source, right, and you have new, and you can see you have a simple class over here. Click on class. Now here it will give you a wizard window where you have to give different things in your thing. Now don't worry about everything because we'll be learning each and every part of this. So as of now, let me give you a name of this. So as you have seen here, like my first.java, right? So this is the name of our class. Now let us go ahead and give that, which is my first. Let us is my class name, right? And let me click on finish. Now when you click on finish, now you can see that. So this is something which will create a simple .java file. You can see .java extension, right? This is a file, and you can see your class got created. Now your class is nothing but actually writing up a code in your raw file. Now my first Java is nothing but a direct raw file which we have, inside which we are creating a class here. Now always keep in mind your file name and your class name should always be same, right? And this is something which we are going to check out now. Now in this class we are going to write all the code. Don't worry. Now this is something which we are going to follow in our complete codes, right? We'll be creating different classes and different things which you want, right? And actually learning the things, right? Now here the first thing here what we have to write is the main method. Normally if you know something on C, C++ and all, right, we basically say, don't worry, even if you don't know, that's fine. So all the classes, everything, right, needs a trigger point, right? Trigger point in the sense there should be some trigger to program so that it can start and run it. So if you take an example of anything, like take an example of Skype, and take an example of a simple setup Skype. So what is the trigger? When you double click on that, right, something should actually take up that request, and then it will start up your Skype. That is something called as a trigger, right? Now here the trigger is, if you have a class here, now the trigger point of any class is something which is called as the main method. Main method is the trigger point here. Now how can you write a main method? Now you can see here how our Eclipse help us to write all the code is. You have a very easy way of writing code in Eclipse. Just write on main, click on control space. Control space will give you something called IntelliSense. So this is something called as a IntelliSense window. Now this is one window which will actually give you support on writing your code in a fast way. Don't worry, what are the different shortcuts we have in complete Java? I'll explain you wherever it is needed. Right? You can write so many things using this IntelliSense. Now if you select this, you can see it will actually give you a complete main method you want. Now this is something where I am writing something called method. Now this is called as a startup method. Now here I am writing something called comments. So this portion which you write in your double two slashes is called as a comments. Now this part of code will never be executed in Java. Now here, so this is something which is a method here, right? Or normally called as a startup method. Anyways, don't worry, we are going to create so many classes and so many triggers when we actually progress with our code. Right? This is a simple main method we have, and internal to that, let us say I want to print a simple hello world, right? So here in C and C++, you know something called cout, right? Same way here you have something called system.out.println. Now you don't have to remember the complete syntax, just say sysout and control space. It will give you the complete system.out.println, and let me just print something called hello world, right, and save this. Now this is something which is a simple basic format of writing a program in Java. Now how can I get output called hello world? Now there are two ways. Either you can right click on this project, go to run as, just say Java application, run as Java application, right? Click on this Java application. Now you can see it will run, and you can see it will actually give you the output called hello world in your console, right? Or you have a direct trigger here. This is called as a run button. Click on this, you can see you will get a output called hello. Now this is a basic Java programming format you have in here. What is a class? What is a method? What are different things here? Don't worry, you will be learning each and every part of the class we have. Right? So this is all about your Eclipse, your JDK, and the simple programming format you have in your Java. Fine.